All right. Good morning, everybody, and welcome back for another Votacall One webinar. I'm Kyle. I'm a project manager and head of customer education. I got Dan Nickman with us, who is a sales engineer and has worn many hats over the years. Today's topic is a good one. We're going to go over integrating Votacall GO services into Microsoft Teams. We had quite a few people sign up for this one, so we're going to give folks just a few more minutes to join. But we'll go over a few house items. And if you look in the bottom right corner, you'll see a questions tab. As we go through, if you have any questions, feel free to fire them off. We'll answer questions as we go through, and we'll take time at the end to make sure we address everybody's questions. If you see something you're interested in, you want to learn more about it, let Dan and I know. We'll reach out to you directly after the webinar, or feel free to send an email to support@votacall.com or put a ticket in at support.votacall.com, and we'll make sure we reach out and talk further about our Teams integration with you. There's also a poll in the bottom right, so make sure you take a look at the poll and let us know what you want to learn about next. We will be back next month with another Votacall One webinar. I'm going to share my screen real quick. We added something to our website I want to show you guys, so hold on just a second here. So on our website, if you go to votacall.com under resources, you will see on-demand webinars. So you'll find all of our previous webinars there, but you can also register for our next webinars right from here as well. So make sure you hop over to our website and take a look and watch some old webinars, and let us know if you have any questions on any of those items as well. Also, if you go to votacall.com/one-training, we have several training videos here too. So hop on over to votacall.com/one-training, take a look at some training videos. And once again, if you have any questions, feel free to reach right out. We also like to remind people that these webinars are not so much for training, but more or less showing you what Votacall can do for you. So again, just let us know if you have any questions. Guess we'll get started here. Dan's our Teams expert, and I'll hand it over to Dan. He's going to go through this and tell us all about Teams.
Okay. Thanks, Kyle. And thank you, everybody, for coming. Kyle, if you just want to go back to, perfect. I thank you all for coming. I see a lot of familiar names here. Some of you guys using Teams integration, actually. So it's nice of you guys to come and learn a little bit more. Again, as Kyle said, we don't see these so much as training experiences as we do. They're more just to bring you up to speed with some of the things that Votacall can do. As a fully managed provider, if you do have questions or you do need trainings or you want to learn more, you can always, as Kyle said, reach out to support@votacall.com. Go to support.votacall.com and open up a ticket and just let them know, hey, I was on training, or just throw a question in the chat today as we're going through this meeting, and then we will reach out to you after this, get you over a calendar invite, and you can schedule some time with us to review what you'd like to do, how you'd like to do it, etc. We love when these sorts of things, when these webinars turn into conversations. We like to keep active conversations with our clients. It's a good way to maintain that kind of relationship that we think we have. And I say we think we have because, if we're not talking to you, you guys, we're not doing a good job. So, again, thank you for attending. And what we'll do now is we'll get started. So, what are we? Votacall Go. So Votacall Go Suite includes the Votacall Go web phone. It includes the Votacall Go mobile. And now what we're doing is saying, okay, well, we've got Votacall Go Teams as well. All right. So that is basically, so the Votacall Go web phone means you have a web phone application that you can launch from a browser, or using Google's progressive web apps, you can actually have now as an icon on your desktop. And that's a phone, right? It's Votacall Go. It's on your computer. Okay. Now we also have a Votacall Go mobile, right? So that means, okay, we're using a program or an app on your mobile device that's allowing you to use your phone. You can also use good old-fashioned desk phones, but we don't call those Votacall Go desk phones. Maybe we should. Votacall Go Desk. Maybe that'll be our next our next thing. But we see a lot of people moving away from that. And so we're really not doing that. So Votacall Go Teams, well, that's our Teams integration. Okay. And so we're going to talk today about what is Teams integration. We're going to talk today about why Votacall Go Teams. And then we're going to talk, can you use Votacall Go Teams resources? And then we'll do some training materials. I'll also show you quickly what it looks like inside of Teams, and we'll do a live demo of that. Okay, I'm going to move on to the next slide here. As we talk about what is Votacall Go Teams integration, we're going to let one of our partners say that for us because I think he said it best. And he's on our website, but this is Brian. And he said, I can get behind my favorite software and my favorite partner working together, right? So favorite software being Microsoft Teams and favorite partner being Votacall. The interesting thing about Teams is I think it showed up on anyone who uses O365. It showed up on their desktop probably 4 or 5 years ago, actually. And it was like all of a sudden you'd launch your computer and you'd see this little thing that said Teams, and maybe you didn't touch it. We're seeing adoption rates, especially since the pandemic, really pick up, right? So, you've got certain folks are starting to use Zoom for their video meetings. Other folks were really starting to use Teams for their video meetings. And what this quote from Brian was saying, well, I'm doing my meetings and I'm communicating with my team internally right here inside of Teams. But I love you guys for phones because I know that you're there. I know that you're reliable. I know that you'll help me if there's issues, et cetera, et cetera. And so that, and so his big thing was a single pane of glass. And so what we mean by single pane of glass is, okay, I work in Teams, I communicate with my team in Teams, and here that's my single pane of glass. Well, now I can make and receive my phone calls inside of that using Votacall Go Teams. So what we've done with Votacall Go Teams is transport our cloud business phone system functionality into the Teams interface that you know and love. Now that's Teams desktop and it's Teams mobile. Okay. And I can tell you that as a Votacall user, if any of you have ever talked to me on the phone, you have done that through Teams. If any of you have ever done a demo with me, which I know I see some names and faces on here that have, you've done that through Teams. So I am a single pane of glass user inside of Microsoft Teams, and I use Votacall Suite to do a lot of different things. If you attended our webinar recently on timeframes and schedules, which we did one, and at that page that Kyle showed you a little earlier, you can go check that out. But if you attended that demo, I showed you my personal timeframes, and one of those was to send phone calls outside of business hours directly to voicemail. And the reason that I do that is because I use Teams, right? So I'm in Teams all the time. Everybody who communicates with me, whether it's Will in sales or whether it's Andy, our COO, or whether it's Kyle in solutions, and they want to just have a conversation with me, they're going to ping me in Teams. Well, they may do that at 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock at night if there's a question or something that we need to be thinking about. However, because I'm using Teams as my phone too, I have a time frame built inside Votacall that sends all my calls to voicemail, but I never have to close out of Teams. So again, we're using features of Votacall One in order to manage Teams a little bit more efficiently. But let's go ahead and jump off to the next one. Well, so why Votacall Go Teams? What we believe, and I think it's proven true, and we have a couple different case studies that we can talk about as we get a little bit further into this. But we believe that we enhance the Teams experience, okay? Meaning not only are you getting phone calls, but there are some things that Microsoft Teams is lacking that when it comes to phones really aren't good things, all right? And so we're not here to pick on Teams because we love Teams, and again, I use it, but we do offer 24/7 US-based support. We offer 5 nines reliability, whereas Microsoft Teams is actually only averaged as 3 nines reliable. And if you use Teams a lot, you've probably had a couple days where it wasn't functioning exactly how you would expect it to, which can be a little bit of a hassle, especially if you're using it for phones rather than meetings. And for that reason, we have a built-in BCDR plan, okay, which is, again, we talked about it when we started, Votacall Go Mobile and Votacall Web Phone. Okay. Now we had somebody who was using our Teams integration, and Teams was Microsoft actually messed up their licensing, and they couldn't make or receive any phone calls because their licensing got messed up. We immediately told them, well, just launch the Votacall Go web phone. And so they launched our web phone, and they were able to, and this is going to sound a little crazy, but they were able to pick up the phone and call Microsoft to tell them that their licensing was having a problem. So it's just a good example of how it all comes full circle. But let's go ahead and take a look. All right. Oh, by the way, our marketing team, they're fun. They love Jack Johnson, but it's always better when we're together, right? So Votacall and Teams, just a better way to use Teams, and we'll talk a little bit about why in just a second. I just have to remember how to change the slides. All right, so let's take a look. Let's take a look at Votacall Go Teams. We'll make a phone call. I'll show you how you access the My Votacall portal from directly in Teams, and then BCDR on the fly, which again, I think is a really important part of this whole thing, is really having that ability to have a backup plan for Teams. As we all found out during the pandemic, I think everybody heard about it. Zoom having hiccups during the pandemic, Teams having hiccups, being able to connect, etc. But we have that built-in business continuity and disaster recovery right behind the scenes. And so let's go ahead and take a look. I'm going to share my screen now. I'm going to turn my camera off. You'll still hear my wonderful voice, but my camera will turn off just so that I can do some screen sharing and make it a little bit more fluid. If you guys miss me and you want to see me again, let me know. I'll turn back on at the end. Any questions so far, Kyle? I haven't been able to take a look.
No questions yet, but I do have a question.
Yeah, go for it.
Does everybody at my organization need to use Teams?
No. All right. So this is really, we want you to think of Teams like you think of a desk phone, or like you think of the web phone, or like you think of a mobile phone. In other words, it's an endpoint. Some people are probably, diehards, and really want to work out of Teams all the time. Those people can. Okay. The good news is it's included within your Votacall license. So access to enabling Teams is included. There are some Microsoft licenses that you need. And if you have questions about that, again, we can take all that stuff offline. But in order to use Microsoft as a phone, there is a license that you have to add. It's an add-on depending on which license you have, or if you have the E5 license within Microsoft, then you automatically have the ability to use it. But we do not charge anything additional. But again, no, you don't. So I use Teams religiously. Now I know some of our sales folks don't use the Teams integration. They use our web Go Web or Go Mobile. And then I know that we have some definite folks who still use desk phones because that's something that they're into. So the beauty of it is it is mix and match. It is a la carte. You guys use what you'd like to use. I hope that answers your question, Kyle. I feel like we set that one up, Kyle. Was that transparent?
Good one. Good answer.
You guys can let us know out there. Did that feel transparent to you? Hang on one sec.
We did have another question come in, actually.
Okay.
Hi, Juana. So question is this a separate app than Microsoft Teams in My Votacall? So the answer is no. You would have the Teams app. So if you do integrate the Votacall services with Teams, all you need is the Teams app. And then, of course, the standard Votacall Go mobile app is its own separate thing. So no additional apps needed. Either use Teams. And if, as Dan was saying earlier, if Teams has any outages or issues, you can use the standard Votacall mobile app as the backup.
Yeah. And we'll talk about that now. And this will probably help you out, Juana, here as we look. So as you go down Teams, you've got your standard icons here. You've got your calendar, you've got your Teams, you've got your, there's one, calls, right? So when you click on calls, what you'll see here is that because of the integration with Votacall, we have a dial pad. Okay, so that dial pad, and this is my DID. Feel free to write it down. Give me a call anytime. This is how you can reach me. And if you look over to the right, you'll see that, okay, I had a video call with Will a little while ago, incoming. That's because I called him and he didn't answer, and he called me back. And then you'll see all these little, I call them turquoise sailboat people. I don't have a better name for them. but it's the one I use in our demos, and so we'll stick with it here. But every one of those that you see is actually a phone call. So here's a phone call with Jay Philbin on Friday. It lasted 7 minutes, 58 seconds. Here's an outbound call yesterday that wasn't answered by John. And then another one that was, oh no, that's Kyle. John is 613, excuse me. And so I made a phone call to him. And then here's some inbound calls that are coming in. I have my DID labeled for Dan so that I know those calls are specifically for me as they come into Teams. But if they were for the solutions group, it would say solutions and then provide the caller ID. And I was calling from my cell phone. That's why it says Votacall here. Now, I also have complete integration, obviously, because this is a Microsoft product. I have all of my names I can search for here in my contacts or type a name. So if I wanted to, come over here and type in Daniel, I'm going to see all the Daniels that are in my organization. And then I'm also going to see all my Outlook contacts. So Daniel Crutoy is an Outlook contact of mine. Okay. So I've got that integration built in. And now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and just make a phone call. So I will come over here and I will just dial. No, I don't want to call Dan. Excuse me. I'm just going to go ahead and let's call my cell phone here. And you guys aren't seeing that. Hang on one second. I screwed up what we're looking at. I'm going to take away the screen share for just a sec. And I need to actually share the whole window, which is what I thought I did. This will work much better. Sorry about that, folks. Okay, so there you can see I've called it recently. Hit call. And there we go. Okay, I'm going to need to mute that. And I'll mute this up here too, just so that we avoid any feedback. So what you can see here is I'm connected. Microsoft is telling me I'm muted, but I have access to my keypad. If I was talking to somewhere or I needed to put in some digits, I could do that. I could also take a look at some other people and invite people in here or do some conferencing. So I could see that Dan Nicklin's on the phone with this phone number, and I could dial another phone number from here to conference somebody in. I could also just dial Kyle, or I could type Kyle's name in. So you have the ability not only to reach people on the phone system, but you can reach contacts within your organization. Okay, so and you can bring them in. So it makes it Teams hybrid, right, in a lot of ways. Now, if you look up here to more, you've got the ability here to put that call on hold. Okay, transfer, consult, then transfer, or park that phone call. So you do have. So I'll transfer this call to Kyle, and so I can do that a couple different ways. I can just dial Kyle's extension if I know it, and I can connect it that way and hit transfer. Okay.
I'm on do not disturb.
That's all right. All right.
On the other phone. Hello.
And you can see that Kyle has picked up that phone call now, and so the window closed down. Okay. So again, I don't want to make this into this isn't like a big crazy thing. It's that simple, right? Okay. So the idea here is that Teams becomes your phone for use with Votacall. So you can transfer, you can conference, you can put a call on hold, you can see who the incoming call is calling for. You can see if you're part of a group, if it's calling for that group. So if you're doing any kind of coverages or any of those kind of things, we have the ability to help and to send through all that information. And so you're working from that single pane of glass. Well, now let's talk about the other things that we mentioned before, which were we'll talk about the BCDR and how that works. And also the fact that if you continue down on the left here, our list of things that we can do. So calls is this tab. You've got files, activity, chat. You guys may have some other icons in here, but what we have done is we've embedded the Votacall GO portal directly inside of here as well. So if I click over here, oh, by the way, we have a speed dial right here that gets you into your voicemail. But if you want to see your voicemail visually, then you could click over to Votacall Go, and you would not see the screen. You can see I have a lot of accounts in our phone system. This would pull you directly into the phone system. So I'll show you what you would see. If you clicked on that button, you would land on this page right here. So the minute you click that button, you're on this page. Okay. And you can see here that I've got voicemail messages. I can see those right here. Okay. And as I'm taking a look at my voicemail messages, I can call that person, call to play. I can forward that message. I can download it. Again, all the things that you can do normally within your portal. Now, some of you may have never accessed the portal. Okay. And send in, we can pick that. I see a question come in. Sorry. We can pick that up. E5, it's already included with your E5 license. We just need to set up a time to do some integration. Okay. But I've got access to my whole portal. I can see my recent call history. Let's say I do have a phone. I could click right over here and I can click this icon right here. It's going to pull up the ability to manage my phone directly inside of inside the portal, right? So if I want to program a button, etc., manage my time frames. I talked to you about how I have different time frames set up. Okay, so here's my Dan voicemail time frame set up, and this is the one that sends all my calls to voicemail, like I was just mentioning to you. So that way, my Teams doesn't ring after 6 p.m. And for anybody who thought I was just sending you to voicemail all the time, we are open from 8 to 5. I'm set my 7:30 in the morning until 6. So, after that, I'll get my voicemail to email. I'll get that message in my email with transcription, and I'll probably 99% of the time call you back immediately. But you get the idea. So we've got our portal embedded right in here. Okay, so I've got my full call history in here and I can go back months upon months, right? I could go back. So this is June 24th, 27th. If I wanted to, I could go back to last October and pull up a phone call of somebody that I spoke with. I can make and receive my faxes in here. Again, lots of all the Votacall features, but we're not here to talk about those. We're here to talk about how we put all those features directly inside of Teams. Okay, now Teams is having a bad day. I click on this icon. I go up here to apps. I say, okay, Votacall GO web phone. That went to my tab over here. Okay, I just launched this. I'm back up and running. Now, we have had this happen and go into play that I know of with our Teams integration customers 2 times. Okay, so not a lot. One was the one that I was mentioning to you just a few minutes ago, where we had basically somebody's licensing got messed up within Microsoft, and they immediately were able to open the web phone and continue making phone calls. Actually, call their MSP to talk about licensing and start having conversations with Microsoft, as well as talk to their clients. The other was about 3 weeks ago or 4 weeks ago. We have a recruiting firm that's about 400 or 500 people. About half of them use Teams. And so they called us and said, we can't make phone calls. And we said, okay, hard phone, web. And they said, no, mainly our Teams users. We said, great. Start by everybody launch the web phone, right? Here's a video on how to do it if they've never done it before, so on and so forth. And we fired that off to them. And then we started to take a look. And what we realized is that Microsoft was showing a lot of issues. They had about a 3 or 4 hour issue where calls were intermittent going through their platform, meaning that the calling side of their platform wasn't functioning correctly. Votacall was never down. Calls coming in were never disconnected. And everybody immediately was able to open up the web phone and continue talking. And that's what, when we say we have BCDR, that's what we mean. Okay, what we mean is you're not relying on Microsoft to be your phone system. You're relying on Microsoft as an endpoint. And I hope that I'm clear on that. If anybody has any questions, please feel free to throw them out there. I do see some other questions coming in. And so what was it? If one of my users accesses the My Votacall portal via Teams, are they able to make changes to everyone or just their own extension? John, that depends on their role. So if their role within Microsoft is as an admin, then they see the admin interface. If their role is as a supervisor, they see the supervisor interface. So I'm sure that there's some people on here that I've seen that I know use call centers and reporting, etc. So in those roles, if you're using the portal already, when you click that Votacall Go icon right here, what you're going to view is immediately what you see normally. Okay, so if you are a supervisor, you're going to see a supervisor functionality. If you are, so for instance, I can actually show you. I'll just close the web phone here. If anybody has questions about the web phone, by the way, do reach out to us. We're always here. But if I just go back to manage domains, right, and then I just go to I go here. Okay, so this is our domain. So if you were an admin, you would see this view immediately, right? So I can get to my call center page and take a look at call centers and what our average handle times are, et cetera. I can go through here and manage users, and then click on that. I can also go over to call queues and manage those. I can manage our music on hold, view our call history, et cetera. So I hope that answers your question. Okay. So Microsoft Teams, I'm just going to stop and we'll come back here. Stop my sharing.
We have another question that came in as well. Is this an add-on to Microsoft Teams? If so, who supports it? So for Microsoft Teams to integrate Votacall One, there is a particular add-on that's required on the Microsoft side. If you have the E5 license, it includes the additional add-on. If you have any other license, you do have to add the Microsoft Teams Phone Standard add-on per each user that plans on integrating their Teams with Votacall.
I hope that answers the question. And again, we can review this with you and go through it. Very familiar with Microsoft Teams and the admin side of Microsoft Teams. And we can help you, go through that process. It's very, very simple to set up. It's just a question of we do need a system admin to do it. That seems to be one of the questions that people ask quite a lot. So, okay. All right, so we're going to open up to questions here. Hopefully you guys have all filled in the poll for us so that we know what you'd like to see next time. And that page that Kyle showed you there, it does look like our next round of webinars will be in July, obviously. And it looks like the 25th and the 26th are our target dates. So you'll see those target dates pop up on that page within the next day or so. Typically, we like to see what people want to learn about first, and then we'll go from there. Any other questions from anybody here?
Carol has a question. All right, so I understand correctly, you can have some users integrate with Teams and others not integrate. That's correct. So you can just do it, handful of people can use Teams. The other folks can just use their desk phone with the Microsoft tool. So yeah, it's just a per user basis as you prefer.
Yep. And we see a lot of that, Carol. So, we have a lot of users who are very much phone intensive users, meaning they need to see everybody who's on the phone. They need a lot of coverages. They do a lot of transfers. They're answering a ton of phone calls and moving them around. And they're very used to or set in their ways with how they want to do that. So those folks just keep using your desk phone, right? We have other folks who are maybe sales folks on the road a lot. They're using Teams to communicate with their team, and they would love to just have, again, that single pane of glass. And we can do that. Great questions coming in. Emmanuel, I'll start with yours. There is no charge on our side. Okay. So we do not charge anything to be able to use this integration. It is built into the Votacall One solution. Again, Votacall One is named aptly for two reasons. One portal that you can manage everything in, and then one license type. So one license, if we talk about a feature functionality, whether it be call recording, call reporting, call center, Teams integration, those are all included on our end. There is some licensing that needs to be done on Microsoft's side. So if you have an E5 license, no additional charges from Microsoft. And I believe someone just asked that question. So fantastic. If you have a business Access, E1, E3, there's an $8 add-on on the Microsoft side that needs to be added in, and then you can start to use this as your phone. Okay. Wonderful.
Another question came in as well. Will this work for our team, which has a call hunt group for calls to be answered by all staff? So call
Yes.
flow routing doesn't get affected or change if you use Teams. So the Teams integration is just giving you another way to answer those calls. So it's not going to affect your call flow routing or hunt groups or the ability to answer those calls within those hunt groups at all. Again, it's just another way for you to make and take calls.
Yep, absolutely. And again, if you guys start to have questions about this, or I see some folks, there's definitely some people, and by the questions you're asking, I can see that we should probably have further conversation. By all means, reach out to us, and set up a time. We'll set up a time to review this with you and talk about it. Hey, Mark, King of E911. I love it. It works the same, Mark. So when they make a phone call, they're making a phone call from their user. So the way that their user is registered, it continues on. Renato, yes, they do. They get email notifications the same way as always. From a notification standpoint, we do rely on the email there to do that, since there's like no light in Teams that will say that you have a voicemail. I see what you're asking me, Mark. No, we'd have to register the user for E911, but Mark, we can take that offline and give you a buzz. I feel like we had set you guys up with a couple users to do this with anyway, so we can do some testing. So I think, Juana, depending on what comes up, if it's phone related, yes, I mean, we're going to tackle that. With regards to, so sorry, everybody, the question was, will Votacall's tech support team also assist if issues come up, or is it IT? If IT is in charge of your Microsoft licensing, then they will need to be involved. If it is a licensing issue or a Microsoft issue. But you can start by just reaching out to Votacall's 24/7, 365 support, and we will start the conversation and take a look do we think that, where are we passing calls, if there are issues with calls failing, et cetera. Again, we have seen very limited, issue here. And we've been doing this I've been using our Teams integration since probably late 2020. It has been my primary phone.
Does the Votacall Teams add-in app have access to the user's Outlook Teams contact list?
So I think I understand the question, and just so you know, when you're in Teams, then yes. If you're on the Votacall Go web phone, then no, right? Or if you're on your desk phone, then no. It is if you're in Teams. If you're in Teams using Teams as your calling surface, that single pane of glass feel, then yes, absolutely. I showed that actually when I was doing the demo. I showed you guys one of my Outlook contacts. So because Teams is a Microsoft product, it does see the Outlook contacts. So if you have people who are heavy Outlook contact users, then this is a good way to do that. John asked if we have any team specific training videos. Yes, John, we do. However, we're in the process of updating them because, as with all things Microsoft, they have decided to change the look and feel of how everything functions. So rather than have people say, hey, your videos don't line up with what I'm looking at, we've decided to reshoot those.
I think that also answers Emmanuel's question as well. So we don't have any videos particularly on the integration setup. That's pretty straightforward. We'd work with your Microsoft admin There's a portal that sits between us and the Microsoft system on your end. So it'll be managed by your administrator. We'd set that up with them and get the integration complete. So there's no particular videos on the integration setup, as that's kind of handled behind the scenes. But we do have some training videos that will be getting updated.
But they're not going to. It's a strange thing for me to say. They don't show a lot. And that's why we've kind of never focused on them. I mean, if you called somebody, like if I just called Kyle on Teams having nothing to do with Votacall, you have the same options that you have when Votacall is integrated. So it really is native Teams experience, but accepting phone calls rather than video calls. Okay. And Mark, we'll ping you after this and see what we can do. Okay.
Great questions.
Okay. Well, if that's it then from everybody, we will. I thank you all for coming. Do you have the ability to? You do not, Renato.
You can still use it as a collaboration tool, invite people into just like regular native Teams conference call and share your screen that way. But if you're on an active phone call, you're on an active phone call. So that ability is not available if you're on a true phone call.
Thank you guys for the thumbs up. We appreciate it. We skipped our telecom joke this month, but we'll bring it back next month. For those of you who, if you want to go watch some of our previous webinars, we did throw some telecom jokes around and ask folks for telecom jokes. But thank you. So we'll try to resurrect that. I have to tell you, it's not a long list of telecom jokes out there. So you kind of run out pretty quickly. We thought it might be an ongoing thing here with the series, but it didn't make it. So, but we will be continuing the series, Sans webinar, Sans telecom jokes. We do thank you for being here. Kyle, anything else before we take off?
No, I think we're good. Thanks, everybody.
All right. Thanks so much, everyone.
Bye-bye.